Hello, friends. Hello, friends. A tradition unlike any other.
Oh, my goodness. In your life, have you seen anything like that?
There it is! Adam Scott, a life changer. Mashed potato!
Here it comes.
This is the 19th tee. Kieran Marsh and Nathan Drudy back with you again. Open Championship week, Drudes, 151st Open Championship from Royal Liverpool at Hoylake. We've reached the traditional part of Major Week, the preview podcast, official preview podcast here on the 19th tee. Very shortly, we'll head over to Royal Liverpool to our man on the ground, Evin Priest from Australian Golf Digest, to get his perspective leading into the tournament. But it is exciting. We kind of flagged it on the first bit of content you heard this week, the chats with David Micheluzzi and Gary Lisbon. A phenomenal week, and one that sits firmly in the hearts of particularly Australian golf fans. I think given what Peter Thompson did for this tournament, it grew in stature swiftly for Australian golf fans and has stayed there ever since, Drews.
Yeah, absolutely. It's it's my favourite week of the year. I'm pumped. I'm just pumped. I'm excited by everything that this week brings, KM. So hook it into my veins is what I say.
Not a lot of sleep coming our way, nor anyone who's halfway interested in golf in the next 4 days. So, look, it's going to be phenomenal. We cannot wait. We'll enjoy it. We'll give you our thoughts as we always do across the tournament and be back in your ears early next week to wrap it all up. But without any further ado, we'll get kick-started on the preview podcast and head over to the UK Australian Golf Digest. Evin Priest on the ground at Royal Liverpool. Well, here he is, our man on the ground at Hoylake in the United Kingdom, the best in the business from Australian Golf Digest. Evin Priest, Ev, it's a pleasure to have you back on the 19th tee. And I will get out in front of this and say that we have you for a limited time window because you're stalking the great Adam Scott, who is going to sit down for an interview with you when he wraps up his lunch. So give us an indication of, what's it like on the ground over there right now, just days out from the start of the 151st Open Championship.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. It's mate. The first thing I can say is it's soaking wet, absolutely pouring down here at Hoylake. Seriously beautiful golf course, one of the great links courses of England, and it's just it's a very gentle Open Championship at the moment. No controversies happening really, besides the fact that Rory McIlroy pulled out of his pre-scheduled press conference. But besides that, it's business as usual. Another last major championship of the year. Everyone's trying to sharpen their games up, but this weather's not really helping matters, but it's kind of got to set in all week. So it's going to be a bit of a wet and windy Open Championship, just the way we like it.
It's exactly what we anticipate, really, this time of year. Maybe a little less rain, but certainly the wind, and it shapes as one of the narratives across the weekend. We got a little taste of it at the Renaissance Club at the Scottish Open last week, and it certainly looks like it's going to be a factor coming into these 4 days at Royal Liverpool, Ev.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be weather's going to play a far greater factor in this Open Championship than last year. Last year was by Open standards fairly tame. It was warm at times throughout the week at St Andrews last year, and this year is really going to be about the side of the draw that people are on, and obviously at the moment that's sort of looking like it's late early is the more preferable draw, but really the rain's kind of going to set in. It's going to be unpredictable the first 2 days, so we actually don't really know what the side of the draw that is favourable. But this is going to be one of those Opens where the weather plays an enormous factor, and we'll crown the champion. We'll help crown the champion come Sunday.
I want to talk to you about the defending champion in just a moment because you had some great content around Smithy in the last couple of days. But I imagine for as excited as he is, and it's a great story, him returning to defend his crown, I imagine on the ground there that the dominant narrative is Rory. And that's not least of which helped by the fact he's coming off, a remarkable win at the Scottish Open. It's probably fueled by the fact that he got so close last year, only to be overtaken by one of the great final rounds in major championship history. But I imagine all eyes are on the man from Hollywood, Northern Ireland, heading into this tournament.
Yeah, they absolutely are. And he's sort of done himself no favours by pulling out of his pre-tournament press conference. He did the same thing at the US Open. And obviously, in his mind, that paid dividends. And I understand why he probably repeated that at the US Open, where he finished second to Wyndham Clark and played in the final group. But the second last group. But yeah, all eyes on him, mate. Like my first Open Championship was last year. I covered the American Majors going back to 2016, but never did the Open until last year. And I sort of saw firsthand the pressure, the UK media pressure that's heaped on Rory McIlroy. Like, obviously, the American media are obsessed with him, but in the UK, it's just a different kettle of fish. And he's bigger than the Beatles whenever he goes to a golf course anywhere in the UK. So all eyes are on him. He's tried to divert some of those eyes by sort of getting rid of that pre-tournament press conference and trying to go about his business and keep his head down and avoid live golf questions and merger questions and all that sort of stuff, and just focus on the actual playing of the golf. And we'll see if that pays dividends towards the end of the week. It probably will. He's coming off an enormous victory in which he became the first person to win the Scottish, the Irish, and the Open Championship all at once in the same career. So he is by far and away the tournament favourite. You can never write off the likes of Scotty Scheffler, John Rahm, some of the English guys like Tyrrell Hatton and Tommy Fleetwood should be up there and about. But there's every indication that tells me that Rory McIlroy and Cameron Smith are going to be in the thick of things come Sunday.
Let's talk about the other man in that equation. He is, of course, the reigning Open champion and a man that you spent a fair bit of time with, not just of late, but, harking all the way back to last year's victory. Great to see the smile on Smithy's face coming in. Obviously, it is nice to return to this tournament as a defending champion, and there are commitments that come with that, but he certainly seems very comfortable in his own skin walking back into this environment.
He does, mate. Just the way he handled his press conference yesterday and walked out of that press conference, he was just beaming. And it just goes to show that he's in a good headspace. He's comfortable with the preparation that he's done leading into this week. He's obviously feeling good because he just won the Live Golf London event for his first victory in 2023. And, he just has that swagger back that he was sort of missing the first 6 months of the year. He never really lost his game, but coming to Royal Liverpool as a defending champion, having all those commitments that he's actually embracing and enjoying, by handing the jug back emotionally yesterday to the R&A chief, Martin Slumbers. And he's coming in off career best finishes at two different majors, and they are the US Open, where he finished fourth, and the PGA Championship, where he finished tied for ninth. And those were the two majors that he typically struggled with. He was much more of a Masters and Open Championship player, as we know, but his game is starting to be more complete, tee to green, and driver through putter. So he's feeling really good. And he said in his press conference yesterday that he's actually a more complete player and a better player. He feels he's a better player than he was last year. And I know that might raise some eyebrows, considering he's won once this year and he won 5 times last year. But the facets of his game is what he's speaking to, and that's the driver feels like he's tidied that up a fair bit. The long irons he feels he's got working maybe better than ever, and the short game's exactly where it needs to be. So we'll see if that rings true come Thursday through Sunday. But all signs point to him, maybe going back to back. Let's hope so.
There has been a number of great pieces from you, as I said, on the Australian Golf Digest website. You're kind of going into detail of his journey, not just over the last 12 months as a defending champion, but, harking all the way back to the very humble foundations of working for his dad's printing business and washing carts at one team, and even pulling beers behind the bar at Redcliffe. He is a far cry from, I suppose, those humble beginnings. But do you get the sense of that he's done a fair bit of growing up in the last year? Not just in, I suppose, the context of being a defending champion, but an awful lot of, I suppose, off-course, I suppose, focus he's had to handle. And he seems to have, there'll always be an element of that kind of childlike element to him, because he is cheeky and he is, he is a playful and fun guy, but he seems to have grown up and matured a fair bit in the last 12 months across a number of factors.
Yeah, he has, mate. Like, he's kind of been forced to. Being the Open champion comes with a lot of obligations, and it also comes with a level of fame that he not necessarily was used to before. The Players' Championship was really the point where he became a household name, because he won what's regarded as the 5th major championship, basically in his adopted backyard of Ponte Vedra, Florida. So he was already a bit of a local celebrity, but now he's reached Kobe Bryant status, where people were sort of seeing and remarking about Kobe Bryant sightings in Los Angeles. Nowadays, when Cameron Smith goes to a pub in the Jacksonville and Ponte Vedra area, he's mobbed by well wishers just wanting a nice photo and to tell him that he's playing well and that they appreciated his move to leave golf, and they respected his honesty. So he's embraced that level of fame that comes with winning not only the Open Championship, but probably the greatest major that's ever been played, the biggest stage golf has ever had, the 150th Open at St Andrews. He's the champion, and his name is on the claret jug as we speak. So he's had to navigate all that all the while moving to a rival tour and facing the criticism that comes with that. And he's done that, absolutely remarkably. And I spoke to him, and he puts that down to his parenting. His mother, Sharon, and his father, Des, raised him well, would give him a clip around the ears if he ever got too cocky. And he's remained a humble Queenslander, which is why he resonates with Australians so well, I think.
More broadly, in terms of the Australian perspective this week, we've got a quality Aussie field, really, and some great storylines, whether it's, Smithy as the defending champion, an older statesman, Adam Scott, who's contended here before, similarly with Jason Day, who's been around and performed so well at majors in the past, all the way through to guys like David Micheluzzi playing in just his second major championship and his first Open champion as the most recent winner of the Australasian Order of Merit, through to someone like a Conor McKinney, only qualified in recent weeks, in a last chance saloon. So some wonderful storylines for the Aussies to follow this week.
Yeah, there really is. Of the 10 Aussies that we've got, there's, not all of them are incredible chances at winning the Open Championship, but they all give Aussies a reason to watch and to follow along with the coverage, like David Micheluzzi, like you mentioned, to Conor McKinney, who, got through the last chance saloon of final qualifying, to, the defending champion. We've kind of got all bases covered, and it's really exciting. And I also like, someone like Min Wee Lee or Lucas Herbert, who have been sort of flying under the radar to a degree. Min Wee Lee's obviously gaining a bit of traction over here in terms of the American sporting public, but two guys that really know how to flight the ball, know how to hit shots. Min Wee Lee, as we know, won the Scottish Open a couple of years ago, so he's comfortable playing links golf. Lucas Herbert grew up playing on the Melbourne Sandbelt, and he knows how to knock the ball down and how to be disciplined around certain spots. And if he can get his driver under control, he's also a chance. So this should be one of the great opens for Australian viewers. And the last two Open Championships at Royal Liverpool have been absolutely fantastic. We've had two of the greats of the game win the past two Opens at Hoylake. We've had Rory McIlroy in 2014, and then we've had, obviously, of course, Tiger Woods winning in 2006 with Steve Williams on the bag. So, and both those occasions, the Australians did quite well in 2006. And in 2014, Adam Scott was right up there as well from the bad side of the draw that year. So this is typically, and obviously I'm stupidly omitting Peter Thompson here. Peter Thompson won an Open Championship at Hoylake. So the courses always seem to favour Australian golfers for whatever reason, much like St Andrews, and this should be a great one for Aussie viewers.
Couple of quick ones to wrap you up, Ev, as we know you're keeping an eye out to get an audience with Scotty. We'll get you to put your balls to the wall here and give us a tip for who you think might be lifting the jug come Sunday evening Australian time.
Well, you're gonna think this is really boring, but I just can't see Cameron Smith and Rory McIlroy not being in the thick of it on the back nine on Sunday. I really like them. I really like Victor Hovland. I think Victor Hovland's a much better player than he was when he was in that final group of St Andrews last year. And then my smokies are a couple of different ones. Tyrrell Hatton has been playing some really good golf this year, and he's back in England. He's on links that he's grown up playing. And I also like Adrian Moronk, who, of course, our reigning Australian Open champion, a guy from Poland. He's just so deadly long and accurate with the driver, and he's got a great short game. And if the wind starts blowing, he's one of those guys. Him and Tony Finau, it's almost like their golf balls are impervious to the wind. It doesn't affect their ball flight as much as some of the other guys. So I'll throw all those in there, and then I'll throw Dustin Johnson in. Dustin Johnson always seems to put his hat in the ring come Open Championship time. It doesn't matter what tour he's playing on or how good or bad he's playing. He's always in and amongst it. So I know you asked me for one, and I'm going to say Cameron Smith. I really do believe he has the goods to defend the Open Championship. He's coming in off hot finishes in major championships. He's coming in off a victory in the UK, and he's just got that peace of mind about him. He's got that swagger and that sort of balance in his life. So he's feeling good, and I expect him to potentially be defending that claret jug on Sunday.
I don't think anyone would be disappointed if he and Rory went toe-to-toe again 12 months down the track. And just a quick one, Ev. I'm conscious you said that this is only a second Open Championship. Obviously, you've got a long history of covering American majors, but I'm conscious to get your understanding of why you think this is different from a golfing fan's perspective. We romanticize the Open Championship and links golf more generally, and rightfully so. It just feels different this week on the calendar, particularly for Australian golfing fans. And just wanted to get your perspective on this being the second one that you've covered. What do you think it is that really strikes home about links golf for Aussie fans?
I think it's the creativity required. We just see so many different shots that we don't get to see year round. We don't see the towering high draw with the driver and the irons that are just sent to the moon and stop on the green. There really is a lot of creativity, and we see some of the best golfers in the world humbled by the weather, and then we see the cream rise to the top, and it's just that it's hard to put your finger on, but it's that UK magic, it's that links golf magic where anything can happen at any given moment, and it's the beauty of links golf. It's playing the game as it was meant to be played along the ground at times, using your mind rather than brute force. And it's also just the fact that it's in the UK, and we have that affinity with the motherland. Like we're very aligned in our sporting interests, and we can relate more to some of these golf courses because they look more similar to Australian courses than American courses do. And just the fact, to answer your question quite bluntly, it's the oldest major championship. It's the most prestigious, and it's the most democratic of all of them. I sort of don't really buy into the fact that US Open is more democratic than this one, because the Open Championship has qualifying events all around the planet, not just in America or not just one country outside of America. So it's the oldest, most democratic, and most creative of all the majors, and I think that's why Aussies love it.
I know I said that was going to be the last one, but you've inspired one more question. I know the focus has been on the 151st Open, as it should be, but you mentioned the magic of links golf, and it would be remiss of me not to draw attention to your incredible week leading into this. If people don't follow you on the social media, they're poorer for it in the past week, Ev, because you've managed to spend a bit of time on the west coast of Ireland playing some of the great links courses of the world in that little corner of the UK. And I'm just curious of what the justification was to the bosses at AGD. Was it a matter of, guys, I just got to get over there and acclimatise myself. I just need to spend a week in the conditions. It was an incredible trip for you that I'm sure we're going to get some great content out of, but goodness me, you've had a great time so far, and the tournament hasn't even started from an Open Championship perspective.
Yeah, mate, I was actually writing a travel feature in Ireland, which is just one of my favourite places in the world. It's links golf, but it's lush and green and beautiful, and the people are fantastic, and the Guinness is cold. So, watch this space in the magazine for a nice travel feature on playing golf in Ireland, and why Aussies should really, if they dream of going over and watching the Open Championship, they really should tack on at least a few days of golf in Ireland on the way there. It's the best way to do it, and I encourage anyone, if they ever get some spare time and some spare money, to get over to Ireland. So, watch this space for the feature, and I can't wait for that to come out.
We look forward to reading that in the Australian Golf Digest magazine, as we look forward to reading all your coverage of the 151st Open Championship on the Australian Golf Digest website. And also, it would be remiss not of us to mention, if people have got some spare time up their sleeve in the next 48 to 72 hours, jump on the Chasing Majors podcast, another one of your great pieces with Stevie Williams, because there's a couple of outstanding episodes related to the Open Championship there as well. So you've got us covered from written to audio, even through to, I'm sure, a couple of great photographs coming through the socials, Ev. It's a pleasure, as always, to have you as part of the 19th team, mate, and we look forward to keeping an eye on the coverage over the next 4 days. Enjoy yourself.
Thanks for having me on, guys, and enjoy that podcast. Enjoy watching the Open from back in Australia, and be sure to head to australiangolfdigest.com.au and check out the coverage of the Aussies, because we got you covered. So thanks for having me on.
There he is, Evin Priest from the course, Royal Liverpool in Hoylake. Great to get his perspective, Drudes. As always, nice to chat to someone with eyes on the venue, walking the course and giving that unique insight of what it's like there on the ground right ahead of the opening round of the last major of the men's season. Let's get into our tips. Do you want to start there, or do you want to start going through the Aussies in the field? Because it's a decent contingent. So maybe we should outline from an Australian perspective who we'll be keeping an eye on before we get into nominating our 4 tips. Why don't we start there, Drew? It's the Australian contingent in the field at the Open Championship.
Yep, absolutely. I don't have it actually in front of me because I've got 300 tabs open, Marshy. Do you have the full list? I was just going to say before you got to this, before we did actually get to this point, I was going to say it is quite a happy hunting ground, is Royal Liverpool, for the Australians. Peter Thompson won in 1956, and of course we had that great finish with the Aussies a couple of years ago with Mark Leishman and Adam Scott finishing just behind Rory McIlroy as the winner there. So it is a happy hunting ground, is Royal Liverpool. So I don't know if you've managed to pull it up there, but I know that there's a wonderful contingent of guys that have made their way, whether they've qualified through the PGA Tour or whether they've qualified through winning the Order of Merit in David Micheluzzi's case. Guys like Hayden Barron also over there making their Open Championship or major debut in Baz's case. So a wonderful list of Aussies Teeing
And
it
even
up.
down to someone like a Conor McKinney, who
correct.
as recently as the qualifying series, kind of making their way into the field. So look, I think it's one of those things, as we say, we always get romanticized by this week, as we should. It's a special format of golf. I think it's one that we yearn for because we see so little of it. And when we see such a large Australian contingent kind of plying their trade on the world stage, particularly when we've got, the defending champion in the field. And I know a lot of people are bullish about Cameron Smith's potential and his opportunity coming back in, particularly the way that he's been going. It makes for a very exciting week. I think, it's as good a contingent as we've had at this Open for some time. And for Australian golf fans who love this tournament anyway, you're naturally, I think, more engaged when you've got a lot of little Australian flags that are floating around, hopefully, the pointy end of the leaderboard, Dreds.
Yeah. It's always been the tournament that we've said stacks up best for the Australians. And I don't know if that's now a little bit redundant, Marshy. I don't know. I think as time goes on, I sometimes think that we play probably a more American style of golf here than we do anything. So, it'd be ideal, and it would be amazing to see another Australian win. I mean, I think Cam Smith is probably our best chance, if I'm maybe not getting too far out over my skis there. I think Min Woo Lee's another fantastic chance. But, we've got a great contingent, and I think there's going to be a few Australian flags towards the top of the leaderboard, Marshy.
Certainly. I'm going to probably buck that trend in terms of, I know we always like to, I suppose, give our highest finishing Australian as part of our tips. I'm going to say one Adam Scott.
Okay.
Now, the reason I say that, and I'm very excited for Smithy. I'm very excited for the form that he's coming in. And do I think he can challenge? Certainly. We haven't seen a back-to-back winner, ironically, in the Open Championship since Padraig Harrington did it in 2007, 2008. So statistically speaking, the chances of defending are difficult. Also, the Open, funnily enough, skews a little older, certainly more older in terms of the age of the winner than its other three counterparts in the major seasons. I don't know if you saw this earlier in the week, but I think it's somewhere in the vicinity of the last 15 to 20 years. The average age of the Open champion is kind of 33, 34 years of age.
Interesting.
And in fact, the most recent two in Smith and Morikawa have actually bucked the trend of the average age of the winner. So I don't know if that speaks to links golf. I don't know if that speaks to the patience and the temperament required for particularly the conditions in the UK and Scotland. But yeah, I just think Scotty's been building without necessarily being outstanding at different parts of the year, but there's an element of the metronomic nature of his swing, of his game, particularly of his temperament, that I think will be really important for him going into this week. And yeah, I saw probably flashes of it at the Scottish Open, which gave me enough hope that I think he's going to have a good week. So I don't think it'll be, kind of light and day. I think Smithy will be right there, but I just think Scotty's got enough to be the highest finishing Aussie. In terms of what is left of the field, I know you said you like Min Woo Lee as well, and he's in some ripping form coming in. So he's obviously there alongside Cameron Smith, Adam Scott, David Micheluzzi, who we've spoken to, Trav Smythe, who you flagged, Hayden Barron, the proud West Aussie Druid. So I know we've certainly got a soft spot here for Harrison Crowe, the amateur, the reigning Australian amateur, who of course also played at Augusta National earlier at the Masters. Jason Day is there, Lucas Herbert, and Connor McKinney, as we mentioned, who qualified only in the last couple of weeks by the final stage of qualifying for the 151st Open. So they're the Aussies in the field, the ones to keep an eye on moving through, hopefully, all 4 days of this tournament. Let's go to our tips, Droots.
Yeah.
I think it's always nice to start with who won't win.
Yep.
To just really put a nail on the wall. Let's put ourselves out there. I'm happy to lead off.
Please.
And I'm happy to say that not for the first time this year, I'm going to say that Scotty Scheffler won't win the Open Championship. I'm convinced that we will leave what will probably historically go down as one of the all-time ball striking seasons and calendar years without a major championship. And it will probably be, when we reflect on it, almost criminal that he doesn't win a major, And I think it's purely reflective of his struggles with the putter. But it's not. I mean, I say this coming off the back of a top 5 finish at the Scottish Open, and again because the putter wasn't necessarily there. So I'm bound to be wrong because Lightning's going to strike one week and he'll come back not even to having a good week, just an average week with the putter, and probably win by 6 or 7 strokes. I just don't think it's going to be this week at Hoylake.
Yeah. No, look, I totally agree, and I know that you can see a scenario in which he's holding the claret jug as well come Sunday afternoon. Like it's totally possible that it could happen. I tend to agree with you. I mean, it's he has played some phenomenal golf and he leads the tour in strokes gained total off the tee and approach. Which I mean, you sit there and you go, how the hell is he not winning? And as you rightly pointed out, it's the putting where he's actually losing strokes on the field. He's 137th, so losing 0.16 strokes on the field. So, yeah. You can see a scenario in which he wins, and but I'll back you this week, KM. I'll back you to have a second place finish for Scotty Scheffler.
All right, let's go back to you. Who do you want to win the tournament?
Can I give who I won't win first?
Oh, sorry. I thought you said you were backing me.
No,
I thought that meant you were agreeing.
Okay. No, I agree with you. I like your pick, is what I'm saying.
Okay, but you want to have your own pick. I mean, that seems fair. That seems fair that you have your own pick.
My won't win, Rory McIlroy. I'll take the fave. I'll put it right to the wall.
Ooh,
okay. I said earlier in the week, as we spent 5 minutes on wrapping up the Scottish Open, I said that he might have gone too early and that the winners of the Scottish Open don't actually perform that well in the Open Championship, and I'm tipping that trend to continue. I mean, totally could have egg on my face. There's two things that don't really stack up for me in terms of Rory's game here at Hoylake, and that's his driving accuracy. I think he's worse off than 150th on the tour for driving accuracy, and he's also 89th for putting strokes gained as well. So I'm just going to lay Rory McIlroy. He's the favourite. I think he's at about $7.50, which is far too short, I think, for a major championship. So give me Rory McIlroy this week to not win the Open Championship.
Let's do it as a snake draft, Drudes. We're going to keep you at the plate. Who do you want to win?
Well, there's not going to be any surprises here, but given how rare it actually happens, I am going to be putting everything in the ring for Cam Smith to go back-to-back here this week. I just think it's such a incredible thing we don't see all that often. And I think if there's ever a time for an Australian to do it, it's probably Cam Smith here. The form seems as good as any. I mean, obviously, we're still a little bit unsure as to where Liv fits into the whole picture of things in terms of form guides, but it seems as though he's playing exceptional golf. He's been away from, he didn't play the Scottish Open. I believe he went out to Hoylake and was practicing. So yeah, he's on the ground early, which I like. I like to see that. I like a man who's out on the course seeing things. So give me Cam Smith this week that I want to win.
I was really close to nominating the exact same, which is probably going to surprise people because I've literally just come off the back of saying I don't think he's even going to be the highest finishing Australian. But I tend to agree in the sense that he's put together a body of work. Like he's had a number of kind of top 10 finishes recently, not least of which at the US Open as well, the most recent major at the LA Country Club. He always plays well.
Yeah.
I think in majors, like you'd have to where he hasn't have been the anomalies and the exceptions as opposed to the norms. So when the best are together and they're playing for the biggest prizes, tends to bring out the very best in him. I think scramble is such an innate characteristic required to links golf, and he has it in spades. He's got it more so than most, if any, to be fair. And I think that it would be just desserts to see him, play as well as he did last year. I'm not sure we've seen a better closing round, to be honest, in a major championship than what we did with Smithy. So I think I'd love to see it, but he's not the man who I want to win. So that's my really long version of what you did and just said you agreed with me.
Yeah.
So I agree with you, but my want to win is maybe going to be a little bit left field because it's a name we haven't featured in tips of late for majors, but certainly a player that we both are very fond of, and that's Shane Lowry. So the 2019 Open champion, it would be his second major and his second Open championship. I've seen enough from him of late that tells me he's going to play well this week.
Yep.
Do I think he will win? Probably not. Would I be supremely happy if he did? Absolutely. I think there's an element of his game that when the conditions are at their most brutal, when they are asking the most of players, is generally when Shane Lowry tends to have answers that many don't. And it's a big part of what I admire about his game is that he never bobs his head up when it's easy. He never bobs his head up when, it's 23, 25 under par to win a PGA Tour tournament. But more often than not, if the wind turns, if the conditions are soupy, when you start to get some complaints out of, people who tend to complain quite easily, Patrick Cantley, I'm looking at you, that's generally the conditions under which Shane Lowry plays well. And I love that about him. Not to mention the fact that it's obviously not home. It is England as opposed to the Republic of Ireland, and we won't dive deeply into that quagmire. But a person from, Ireland or the UK winning an Open championship, there's something special about that, as there was in 2019 when he did it. And I think he's good enough in the long term that we should reflect on a two-time major champion. A two-time Open champion would be super special. So Shane Lowry for me.
I like the pick, Marshy. I do. I really like Shane Lowry. He is obviously such a lovable character. And I mean, the conditions, I know you're going to talk to Evin Priest about this a little more, but the conditions aren't looking particularly great, and I think that's where he's going to thrive. So I like the tip, Shane Lowry. I'd certainly love to see him holding the claret jug. Obviously, that'd make him a two-time winner of the Open Championship as well, and that was really the beginning. The beginning of this show was when Shane Lowry won the podcast. So it'd be nice for it to go full circle and him hold it again. So I like that. Who's your will win? We always finish with the roughie. So who's your will win?
Yeah, so I toss this around a lot, to be honest.
Okay.
I drank the Kool-Aid out of the Scottish Open, and I must say I'm not still totally unconvinced that Rory won't win this tournament. I think there is a genuine chance that he could, and maybe will.
Couldn't agree more.
I'll also make a special mention of Jon Rahm here, because in the history that we've been doing this, never have I been closer to simultaneously picking someone as will win and won't win as I was with Jon Rahm.
Okay.
I mean, this is a player who won the Masters, his second major championship earlier in the year, and has really been a shadow of himself in the time since. He hasn't played since missing the cut at the Travellers, which is unique in the sense that he hasn't chosen to play most recently the Scottish and give himself at least a week in the conditions. So I'm intrigued by what he's been doing, and it makes me a little cautious that he also might come and go on an absolute fucking tear at Royal Liverpool. So
I believe he's been playing in Ireland, Marshy.
Yeah, there's been
playing at
right.
Ballybunion. So
there was a bit of content floating around of kind of west coast of Ireland vibes from John. So not completely out of context in terms of conditions, and certainly cutting his Lynx teeth. I mean, he's a former winner of the Irish Open, so there's probably some ongoing connections there. It leaves me genuinely undecided. Like I'd be happy to say he won't, based on the way he's been playing, but also could actually come and win the tournament, no doubt about that. So I just wanted to say that because I thought it was worth. As I said, never have I been closer to picking someone in both categories than I was with Jon Rahm for this tournament.
Okay.
But that's not who I've decided will win the tournament. And this may come as a surprise to you. But I believe that our champion for the 151st Open Championship at Royal Liverpool and Hoylake was born on the 19th of January 1991. He is one Thomas Paul Fleetwood.
Okay.
I think it's happening. So I think we've been trending. I think he's refound the form that probably early on in his career, and I'm talking about, it's ironic that you kind of spoke about the genesis of this podcast, because I'm talking about that period of time through 17, 18, 19, where he really kind of popped up He was in incredible form that led into obviously that remarkable Ryder Cup that he had, Mollywood, that phenomenal partnership with Francesco Molinari. And it's the promise that has seen him win multiple times on the European Tour, have had a series of top 5 finishes, most recently at the US Open, but never go on to convert, in America or in a major for that matter. I think the way that we've seen his form return probably in the past 2 months, maybe 3, if we want to give him a little bit of leeway, speaks to that early career form. And I think the timing of this major coming at home and coming in conditions, I mean, he, albeit for a relatively poor final round at the Renaissance Club, he was as good as anyone through the first 3 rounds of the Scottish Open, particularly in the third round when the conditions really started to arch their back. And if we're looking at what we believe to be windy and rainy conditions, I genuinely feel like that narrows the field significantly if you're trying to identify a winner. And it's a filter, for use of an internet term, that I think certainly includes Tommy Fleetwood. So there's some stats you can pull out around. I think he's certainly in the top 10 tee to green. I think he's 7th across the season tee to green. I think he sits 2nd scrambling inside 30 yards, which I think is going to be an incredibly important statistic this week. So there's stats that I can speak to, which I'm sure you're about to speak to with whoever you nominate for your winner. But as usual, I just think there's a feeling, there's a vibe that I get around Tommy Fleetwood. Obviously, he's been close before. 2nd, in fact, at an Open Championship was the year that Shane Lowry won that we've just spoken about. Like, that was particularly, people got so excited about where he was there. I don't know, Drew. I just, there's something about him and the way he's been shaping in the last couple of tournaments in particular that make me bullish about Tommy Fleetwood's chances this week at Royal Liverpool.
Well, I think I really do think it's a solid pick. 2 out of his last 3 Open Championships, he's finished in the top 5. Of course, that 2nd place that you mentioned there, T4 last year as well. And 3 of his last 6 majors in general, he's finished in the top 5. So he shows up in the big tournaments, which is obviously bodes well for him. I mean, you touched on the poor round at the Renaissance Club in the last there, but it was really the last hole. I mean, he parred every hole from 1 through 14, and I think made his first birdie on 15, and I think it was a double on the last hole to finish 2 over par. So it wasn't as though the entire round was bad. It was just in spades. I do think that if he is 1 or 2 or 3 or even 4 back going into Sunday, particularly with the conditions forecasted the way they are, that plays right into Tommy Fleetwood's hands. So no doubt would be an immensely popular winner if he was to finally get it done, because we've spoken about him so regularly as being a chance, particularly at the Open Championship. But it would be an incredibly popular winner. So I'll certainly be writing for it. And if anyone's interested, in $21 at the minute for Tommy Fleetwood, which I think is probably about right. I think.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think, certainly shouldn't be any shorter than 21.
No.
But I think given the way he's playing, he's not like a mid to late 30s pop either. So I think 21's good value for Thomas Paul.
Agreed. My winner.
Yes.
So my winner is statistically is actually quite similar to yours, and actually is also at $21. So I've gone Ricky Fowler here. I've just loved the way that he's been building.
Okay.
Plays the Open Championship well. I know that obviously his last venture to the Open Championship was in 2021, where he did in fact basically miss the cut. I think he finished about T50 odd, but prior to that finished T6 in 2019, has finished T3 here in 2014 at Hoylake. I believe was 2014 was one of the years that we played here. So
it was, yes.
Yeah. Obviously that was a flash in the pan year. Well, not a flash in the pan year, but it was a year that he just struck gold because he finished inside the top 5 in every major in 2014. But there's no doubt that that T2 finish stood out to me at the Open Championship 2014. In terms of statistics, I mean, strokes gained total 8th, strokes gained putting 31st. So he's right at the pointy end of the 2 that I've been really interested in. He's inside the top 100 for driving accuracy percentage, which is going to be very important come particularly on Sunday. Look, I think things are stacking up for Ricky. Obviously, played so well at the PGA. We know that his form has returned. I mean, dare we say it? You know, of course he's back. There is no doubt about it. He won the Rocket Mortgage Classic. Appreciate that he finished 42nd at the Scottish Open, but I do think that there is some genuine upside to Ricky Fowler this week. I don't think the Scottish Open is the best form guide for this, but yeah, a string of top 10s before that and top 20s. So he's hitting the ball well. He'll have the advantage of an extra week of being on the European side of things. So Ricky Fowler for me at 21s.
I considered it.
Yeah.
I certainly did, and I won't lie, and I don't think you'll be surprised at all to know that I'm a victim of recency bias. It scared me a little to watch him plot his way around the Renaissance Club on
absolutely.
the weekend. So
particularly Sunday.
We've been incredibly bullish about him. Obviously, we wanted to see it at the US Open. We got to see it 2 weeks later when he returned to the winner's circle for the first time in 3 or 4 years. So he's been in phenomenal form this year, and I would not be at all surprised, and I'd be just as happy, if not a little more, to see him there than I would be to see Tommy Fleetwood. So yeah, I think two logical selections, but what would be two very popular winners between Ricky Fowler and Tommy Fleetwood. So yeah, I'm on board, Dreads. I'm on board. Let's stick with you for your roughie. Where are we finding value?
Well, I'll be very simple here. I just cannot see how Robert McIntyre can be $81. That just makes zero sense to me from a bloke who nearly won the Scottish Open. As I referenced many times, it's not a great form reference. But, I mean, conditions not great over the weekend in Scotland. Conditions are not going to be great again in Liverpool, as I've mentioned many times throughout this show. So I'll keep it very brief. Robert McIntyre at 81s for me.
I think it's good. I think it's great, to be honest. I think it sounds like someone working at whatever provider you're currently viewing the odds on maybe didn't check the news this morning when they woke up to readjust the pricing.
Wow. Yeah.
What I will say is I think you and I are looking at, and I'm conscious because I don't ever want to give free ads. So I think all I'll say is I think you and I are looking at different providers because I'm not getting him at 81s. Okay. But what I will say is I'm getting him on the same line as Justin Thomas, which I think is equally, if not more insulting to Robert McIntyre at present, given JT's form, than even being at 81s. So both of those things.
Yeah, no, you're right, because this is interesting. I've just refreshed down to 56. So having to push this out, we've moved the needle.
Yeah, well, look at that. I still think he's value at 56, to be honest.
Yeah, can I have 56? Is that enough?
And as I said, he's on the same line of betting as a bloke who's in the absolute wilderness. Lost. And he's just lost by a shot at his national open on the weekend, just gone. So anyway, that's I think that's a great pick.
Who have you got?
I'm actually going to go genuinely in the 80s. This hasn't been adjusted, and that's because this person didn't come second at the Scottish Open on the weekend. Hideki Matsuyama is at $86. And I think now it would genuinely have to be lightning in a bottle stuff at the moment because Hideki's form isn't pointing towards a victory or a logical, even probably top 5, top 10 finish. But I just think he certainly has the game from a links golf perspective, a pure striker, a wonderful player with irons in hand. I think he has all the characteristics to be a winner, and I think at $86, he's wonderful value. There is one name I just want to make a special mention of as an honourable second in this category for me.
Please, because I got a couple.
and I wanted to because he's in triple figures. Okay. So at $101,
yeah.
I'm cognizant that I'm saying this after talking about how far in the wilderness Justin Thomas is. Louis Oosthuizen.
Yes. Yeah.
At $101 piques my curiosity.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Yeah. I totally agree.
Run me through your I mean, Ben Arn's another one there. He's at 141. He's had a top 5 finish most recently to get himself into the tournament.
Yes.
at the Scottish Open.
Ricky Fowler's out to 23 now, by the way. So
are they listening?
they
Goodness
could be.
me.
They could be.
What's going on?
They've got the taps. It's like that show on Netflix. Have you seen that with the where it's Operation Rico, where they tap all the networks? Amazing documentary. Watch it if you've not watched it. Anyone listening? On my list, Justin Rose at 51, just an elite player at the Open Championship. I think that's far too much value there. Seamus Power at 226. An Irish bloke who plays pretty steady golf. I mean, not going to win. This is the whole point of the roughies. I don't think it's someone that's actually going to win. I think it's someone that might get close. So if you can get a top 20 for Seamus Power, and look, based off the confidence that he was exuding the other night when I spoke to him, I'll give you David Micheluzzi at 501 to 1 if you don't mind, Marshy. So
yeah, that's insulting, to be honest. That's actually insulting. Mika is $100 further out than Richard Bland.
Yeah.
I'm just running through. Rakuya Hoshino is $100 shorter than David Micheluzzi.
I don't know who that is.
Stuart Sink is $100 shorter than David Micheluzzi. So, yeah, that's insulting. Give me all of the 501 for David Micheluzzi, please.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
John Daly will be teeing it up again, I see, at 1,001 alongside Harrison Crowe and Hayden Barron at 1,001 to 1 as well.
And Connor McKinney. So a couple of the Aussies down the bottom there, value.
And Travis Smythe at 500. So.
Okay. I'm going to suggest, let me go out on a limb here. I'm going to say one of those three Australians, Hayden Barron, Harrison Crowe, or Connor McKinney. I'm not prepared to nominate which one. If you leave myself a little bit of wiggle room, I'm going to say one of them is going to make the cut.
Yeah.
You've got $1,001 pop to make the cut.
Yeah.
That's worth an investment, I would have thought. Druids, what a week. A couple of things just to wrap us up. We haven't even mentioned the fact that this is a special week for you as a massive Everton supporter. I mean, we're heading to the Mercy, well, not the Mercy side, but we're heading into the general vicinity of your beloved Toffees. So a special week for you.
Yes.
Also home of the Beatles, of course, if anyone's a massive fan of one of the great bands of all time. So just a beautiful part of the world that we're heading to there in the greater Liverpool area. And obviously don't miss your opportunity as well. It's launched earlier in the week than you're hearing this preview, but our major giveaway. We always like to give away some prizes each and every time we feature a men's major. So the funny part about this, and I always enjoy this with you, is that we get about a week out from a major, and invariably the message goes, "Shit, what's the format? What are we going to do this time?" Because we can't just keep going. Can you tell us who's going to win the tournament? Yeah. Or we can't say what's the winning score going to be? Oh, we actually haven't said that. What is the winning score going to be? Do you reckon? By the way,
7 under.
Okay,
I'm just going to give you a number. 7 under.
I'm going to say 4 under for me.
Excellent. I look forward to it being 23 under.
Yeah, I look forward to the forecast rain not happening.
Yeah.
So we thought a little bit about it, and we thought often, whether it's at a major or just week in, week out on any of the tours across the world, you and I have always placed a premium on a Sunday low score, on someone going real low on a Sunday. And invariably it will happen. You know, there's been some outstanding ones in the past, not least of which Rory's Sunday at Augusta 2 years ago. I think it was a 63 to jump him into second place. So we love it. We love a Sunday low score because someone will bob their head in this tournament. And they certainly probably won't be within the first or the last 5 or 6 groups. It'll be someone with absolutely no pressure on the line will go out and shoot 63 on Sunday. So that's the competition this time around. We want to know firstly, who's it going to be? Who's going to have the lowest score on Sunday in the 151st Open Championship, and what's it going to be? So we need you to be specific. We don't want like 6 under par, 7 under par. It needs to be the number. So whether you think it's 65, 64, 62, We don't want to know the number, and we want to know what player is going to have the lowest score on Sunday. So obviously, jump into the Instagram feed. The post is there. You want to nominate the player, nominate the score, tag our great friends at Oakley, and you go into the draw, because there may be multiples. It's unlikely, but there may be multiples. You will have the chance to win your choice of Oakley sunglasses and a box of balls from our friends at Callaway, as we do each and every time. So jump on there. As I said, nominate your player, nominate the score, tag our great friends at Oakley, and you'll be in the draw.
That's as simple as it is. We've got a few entries already. I put it up before while we were chatting. So there's a few entries in there already. I've seen one for Patrick Cantlay, so that's unfortunate that you'll be out of the running for it, whoever's put that in. But, have another
He won't
go.
even probably won't be playing Saturday, to be honest, let alone playing Sunday. So I'm not sure he'll be eligible for the competition. But, hey, I appreciate your optimism.
What are we going to do the day that he
playing
wins? What are we going to do the day that he wins a major?
Short episode. I'm already thinking of how slow it's going to be given the conditions that are forecast, let alone if he's still playing on the weekend. So,
well,
anyhow,
the English are, famous for, imposing penalties on their members for pace of play. So imagine if after the first round, Patrick Cantlay walks off 18 and there's just the president of Royal Liverpool just with a written notice, letting him know that your pace will be monitored and you'll be expelled. I'd love
They're
that.
also famous for just being incredible students of the game as viewing patrons and fans. So they'll let him know. If he's dragging his heels, they will let him know. I don't think there's any doubt about that. It's added to the list of things I love about the Open Championship is the educated crowd. There's not going to be a lot of get in the holes yelled after tee shots this week, which would be a welcome break from the week in, week out idiocy of fans on the PGA Tour. Anyway, we've become a little sidetracked. Look, it's been a great week. We've had a lot of different perspectives. You've had Mika, who we absolutely love, and a chuff for it. He's made an Open Championship. You've had wonderful insights from Gary Lisbon, one of the best golf photographers in the world. You've heard from our man on the ground, Evin Priest from Australian Golf Digest. And if you are still engaged or still inclined to be, you've also had our thoughts, which place whatever value you want on those. You're still listening after a couple of years, so I imagine you somewhat enjoy them each and every major. It's been a pleasure. Keep an eye on the Instagram channel, particularly over the next 4 days for our thoughts after each and every round. We'll be back on Monday evening. At least that's when we'll record it. You may not hear it at your leisure throughout next week, but we'll be back on Monday evening to review the 151st Open. Drew, it's a pleasure as always. Look forward to your thoughts across the next 4 days. It's going to be an absolute cracker.